Network Entertainment.
Who's ready for story time?
What's going on? This is Xavier Woods, aka Austin Creed.
Let me talk to you.
Hello, WWE Universe in the Philippines. This is Charlotte.
Hey everyone, this is Jeff Cobb.
I have to finish the story.
We are pretty deadly. Yes, boy. Yes, boy.
Run!
Bang! The sniper is shooting you down. This is TMDK's Robbie Eagles.
Hey, this is the Cosmic Cactus, Paul London.
Hello, my name is Ilya Dragunov, the Star, the NXT champion, and you're listening to...
And you're listening to...
And you're listening...
And you are listening...
And you're listening
to the Wrestling Podcast.
The Wrestling Podcast.
The Wrestling Podcast.
The Wrestling Podcast.
To the Wrestling Podcast. Yeah.
You are now listening to the longest running weekly episodic Filipino wrestling podcast. This is the Wrestling Podcast. This is the bonus post live stream episode. We're recording this after we went off the air from our live stream just a few minutes ago. This is myself, Ro, and Emile, and we got a couple of topics. We'll make it quick because we know we got other podcasts to listen to. Pero syempre, we have other thoughts that we did not have time for on the live stream. So first, before we get to the big one, let's talk about NXT. Emile, you have this rant that you want to get off your chest about the metaphor.
All right, so this has been an underlying issue that I have with the metaphor. I think it goes back to last year, and ngayon ko lang siya naisipan to talk about. And their booking makes them feel invincible, And as a heel faction, of course, one of the things that you always need na mangyari as a heel faction is you get your comeuppance, right? You get your defeat. You finally, like, the babyface will now triumph over your group, or you're the heel, diba? Mm-hmm. But for me, it doesn't feel like they get their comeuppance in their every feud since forming. Parang, yes, they would be beaten up sometimes. Like Ora Mensa will take so much of the beating, but at the end of every feud, Noam Dar always comes out on top. And for me, it feels they're just as invincible as the Bloodline at this point. And Noam Dar has been Heritage Cup champion, I feel like, for way too long already. Ever since they reestablished the Heritage Cup on NXT, he has been the champion. And it makes the competition for that cup look weak because no one seemed to know how to dethrone Noam Dar. Like, sa tinagal-tagal ng panahon, someone should have figured out how to defeat Noam Dar and neutralize the metaphor. And I'm getting now to what happened on NXT. Now, it seems like there's going to be a feud between the No Quarter Catch Club, which is the group that is led by Drew Gulak, and you got guys, Charlie Dempsey's there, Damon Kemp, and I think someone else. I forgot his name, but apat din sila eh. And I feel like
Jahar Jackson?
No,
sorry, no quarter. Miles Bourne.
Miles Bourne. And I hope someone from that group can actually neutralize the metaphor, because it's been way too long that we have Noam Dar as a champion. So I want Charlie Dempsey to finally dethrone Noam Dar. But yun lang naman, because hindi natin napapansin, because there's other things going on in NXT na are far more interesting. But kahapon ko na ito na-realize while watching NXT, because, di ba, the opening match was, it was Von Wagner and Robert Stone against Ora Mensa and Noam Dar. And I expect, because nung last time that they faced, natalo si Von Wagner, di ba? In that Heritage Cup match. So I feel like they should at least get the win here, but instead, nanalo pa yung metaphor. So doon na nag-spark yung, but it's like a great glass breaking moment for me that they've been booked invincible since they were formed. I don't know what your thoughts about the metaphor, but that's how I feel about them at this point.
I have two thoughts. First, I like that you're so passionate about the metaphor, and you're you're really going in on this particular story and this particular faction, because that's something I would do, right? When I feel passionate about something as well. My second thought is I actually don't have any thoughts about the metaphor. It's one of those things. I'm thinking side attraction and also that because the NXT Heritage Cup Championship has been a special feature, for lack of a better term. Like it's one of those things like, okay, it pops up every now and then, but it's not really central to any stories because it's them keeping the British rules, the British rounds match alive, which is fine. But alam mo yun, it's neither here nor there at this point. So that's why I don't think about it that much. I don't mind Noam Dar, but syempre, I agree that someone else should be the champion, but I also don't mind it as much. My big takeaway for Metaphor is that it really is a vehicle for not even for Oro Mensa, but for the two women, Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend, who have been getting better. So that's especially, if Jade Cargill didn't show up, Lash Legend would be, on the way to being their Jade Cargill. So now we have 3 women of that mold in WWE. So, that's my thoughts. It's one of those things. Okay, if Drew Gulak wins or whoever they pick, but they choose who gets to do the match and they all come out together, right? That would be nice if somebody else beats Noam Dar. But alam mo yun, the championship itself has to be a bigger deal for me to care about it more, which is something that's also kind of sad, right?
Isn't that basically the reason why it's not interesting? Because he's been holding it for way too long.
No, I mean, no, no. Wala rin silang real effort. Wala silang political will to do something more with it. Like it's there for them to bank on, break glass in case you need a good match, right? Yeah. Kung kailangan mo ng nice diversion from everything that's happening. If you want to do a nice 6-round match or so, it's there. But otherwise, whether or not it was Noam Dar, I think it would still be that kind of match or that kind of championship. So that's what they need to fix first, I think.
Yeah, I mean they did some kind of effort.
Yeah.
But it was the remember the tournament?
Oh,
that's actually the last time na
naalala
ko na
but then Obafemi became a big deal. And then they did the Dusty Classic. Tapos now Trick and Mello are the big deal.
Yeah,
right?
so
walang space.
I attribute yung pagka-stale nung Heritage Cup tayo. I also attribute that to Noam Dar being the champion for way too long. Kasi nawawala na ng competition eh. So nasayangan lang ako because this is one of the things that I really like NXT UK. And it's such a shame na it's not interesting anymore. But again, I attribute that to their booking. So, naman, I wish they could put a little bit more effort in it. Kasi nakikita mo naman sa story na sa NXT, they've been putting in a lot of effort in the stories, the way they tell stories of each and every one in there. So I wish they could do the same here with the Heritage Cup. So yun lang naman. That's what I think about it.
Hopefully they really push through with NXT Europe soon para mabalik doon yung Heritage Cup Championship.
Mga Immortal, listen to the Underpaid Podcast with me, Stanley Chi, wherein we talk about work-related topics in a light manner na parang nagchichismisan lang tayo or nagkukwentuhan. Listen for free on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or kung saan ka man nakikinig ng podcast. Kita-kits!
All right, let's move on to the last topic that we wanted to talk about on the live stream, but we didn't get to have time. It is today, February 15, as we record this, the 20th anniversary of Eddie Guerrero's only WWE Championship win at No Way Out 2004. So if you've been listening to the show for a while now, Stan and I and Gino, we've talked about our feelings about this at length. So every time may anniversary, we've already talked about it. So you can go look for those episodes because I'm sure they'll pop up on Spotify. So Emile, as the new kid, on the show, and also someone who was not watching wrestling during this era, you were still a toddler. You were still a toddler when 6 years old, pala. You were like 6 years old.
6, yeah.
When Eddie won the championship. So when did you discover this moment and what did you think?
actually discovered this when I heard you guys talked about this, probably like years ago, and even though hindi ko na-witness yon when it happened, it always warms my heart every time I would watch it. Kasi, you showed your love to Eddie Guerrero every time, and you look at the crowd reaction at that moment, like just by that, I think doon pa lang naintindihan ko yung gravity of the moment. The knowledge I have now of wrestling and I have of Eddie Guerrero, I understand why that moment was as big as it is. Because he came from ECW, he went through a lot of things before he got to that moment. He got hired by WWE because he got fired. He went to rehab. Munti ka nang nagkasila-sila yung family niya. And then for him to be trusted again by WWE, they hired him back, and he really made the most out of his second run. And this was the peak of that second run, was his title win. So although I am curious, I think that baka natanong ko na to sa inyo last year, but I may have forget. Baka nakalimutan ko lang. How did you guys like saw this moment for the first time? Like,
that's a good question.
Did it air on RPN? Did it air on?
It aired, pero syempre, back in those days, we were watching it for free on a 3-week tape delay. So we knew of the moment, and when it happened, it was really good. We were, alam mo yun, we were looking forward to it. We definitely caught it when it aired sa TV, on cable TV. Okay, so this was a big deal because to contextualize it once again, first you mentioned that Eddie was an addict. He had drug problems, and if Eddie's career happened today, he would have also gotten fired for a lot of reasons. He got fired because alam mo yun, his drug problem was getting so bad that his health was affected, his decision making was affected. But now, if you get exposed as a drug addict, you're gonna be a PR liability. Tapos they'll fire you. This is post wellness policy, right? So for him to come back through those rock bottom moments of his life, that was a huge deal. Because for all intents and purposes, if you were a booker and then you saw Eddie, the drug addict, diba, you wouldn't have taken a chance on this guy, right? He was one of the original undesirable to undeniable, but he wasn't all the way undesirable. It's just that he was a liability kasi addict siya, and you never know what the influence of drugs and alcohol would do to you. And he did get into a car accident, so it's really remarkable how he clawed back from being fired to becoming WWE champion. Then the second part of that is that Eddie was fucking small. He's big now. You can see it here. He's huge. Pero this guy was not natty, which I had to come to terms with recently. But he was like, what, 5'8"? He was 5'8". And even though you look like this, you were still small, right? And back in those days, Vince McMahon did not give small wrestlers WWE Championship reigns. So this reign, pati Rey Mysterio's reign after Eddie died, those were big moments. Those were big deals under Vince McMahon. So in WCW, hindi, kasi Chris Benoit was able to become world champion under Eric Bischoff, right? So the fact that Eddie was able to become WWE champion despite not being a giant like Brock Lesnar or Big Show or Undertaker, diba, was another testament to how good he really was and how over he was as a character, as someone to rally behind, diba? He was CM Punk before CM Punk, really. So big deal, and I really enjoy that part as someone who isn't a giant, right? I'm the smallest guy of all of us five, right? So it proved to me that you don't have to be tall, you don't have to be like the biggest dude in the world, the biggest meathead in the world to become a top champion. All you got to do is work hard and be talented. So that was pretty huge. That was why I enjoyed this so much. And one of those things, it was supposed to be a routine defense for Brock Lesnar. Pero Brock was on his way out of the company in 2004. So the decision was made to have Brock put him over. And it was like the best time for it. Kaya it's one of those things that you didn't know until after. You weren't sure if they were really going to pull the trigger on Eddie's reign. And that's why it's a huge moment. And the actual main thought that I had for this particular conversation is that it has been fucking 20 years.
Okay.
It's fucking 20 years ago. Jesus
man.
Christ.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. I've been a wrestling fan for more than 20 years. Chino has been a wrestling fan for longer. Like he's like a wrestling fan for 25 years out there. Jesus. And we are old.
Yeah.
So
the one thing I will additional lang. So not many people remember that his reign only lasted like 4 months.
Oh yeah, that was and you know 4. Yeah, you're right. It was only 3 or 4 months. Yeah.
But people remember this iconic win so much.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's all about the win, not really about the win.
You know, pinag-usapan natin yung dati yan when it comes to what's like the title, yung usapan tungkol sa haba ng title reigns, diba? So it's not really how long the title reign is, it's how memorable the title win was. And this is a prime example of that. Na this win, 20 years after the fact, pinag-usapan natin siya. But again, not many people remember na his only WWE title reign ended after 4 months. You know, so that's again speaks volumes to this moment. Yep. And again, lahat naman tayo wrestling fans, we miss Eddie Guerrero. We always wonder, you know, what if he didn't tragically, hindi naman tragically, but syempre, he didn't die early. What if he didn't die early, like 19 years ago? So yeah,
it's funny because I am now 5 years away from the age that Eddie died. That was it's also funny because Eddie was 38 in this photo, or 37 in this photo, and he looks like he's 50 years old.
Like that's like yung mga older people, they really look old. Like pag 30 na sila mahalata. Pero ngayon, I don't know what happened with the world, pero it's a different world.
We skewed younger. We decided to look younger.
Okay.
Ito kasi Eddie had the mullet and he had the facial hair. And his face looked old. And it was because of the drugs and the drinking as well.
Plus, na-notice ko din like in nung 2004 onwards, he doesn't look as big as he was when he came into WWE. Because I mean, again, you know, you watch.
He was huge here. Yeah.
He was but he was bigger when he came in. The Latino Heat days, sure, he was bigger then. So talagang nakita mo na he got cleaner talaga when he came back, and he made an effort to maximize his second chance. And
yeah, he really did.
It paid off. Like Vince gave him this WWE title run.
Yeah, I actually just wonder now what he would say about the whole Vince allegations.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird. But anyway, that's it for our Eddie tribute. Stan couldn't be here. He really regrets not being able to be here for Eddie's 20th WWE Championship anniversary. But it is what it is. You gotta make big money, adult money. All right, that's it for the bonus post live stream episode of the Wrestling Podcast this week. We'll see you next week once again for our weekend reacts and picks of the week audio only episodes, as well as our usual weekly live stream on Thursday. And by then we will probably already do I think aabot tayo sa 700 episode on the live stream. So I don't know if we're going to do anything special, but it's just one of those milestones that has happened in our 10th year. So for my co-host Emile and our absent co-host Chino, Stan, and Rowan ASH, this has been the Wrestling Podcast. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay cool. It's getting hotter. And don't be a dick. Wrestling Podcast out. Peace, outcasts.
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.